Hey guys, welcome to the Laying Foundations podcast. This is your co-host Davis Hambrick. Joining alongside me today is Walker Lott. What's up, Walker?
Good afternoon, Davis. What's up, dude? How are you?
Good man. What you been up to today?
Oh, man, just hanging out, doing thesis, living the dream. You know how it is. And
That's
just
right.
getting off with this awesome guest that we had today. I mean, seriously, it was a blast. So, for those of you who are about to listen, we had Jason Phelps on. He's the executive director of ACRI, and who is highly involved in Go Build Alabama. They're kind of one and the same, and they do a lot of stuff everywhere, especially in the state of Alabama. Hence the name. But I'm,
Right.
I'm really excited for y'all to hear this. I know Davis can agree. It was really awesome, and we go deep in talking about the trades, and we talk about how you can get involved and how younger students who might not want to go to college can have an incredible career and eventually even start their own company if they wanted to. Whatever the pot honestly, and this is just in general, this is one of my pet peeves. It's what I'm going to get on my soapbox for a little bit. If people don't think they can do whatever, honestly, whatever you think that you are, if you think that you can't start something, or if you think you can't do this, then you're not going to be able to. And I hate that so much. And what Jason talks a lot about is kind of changing the stigmatism on trades, and also changing the stigmatism or self-belief that a lot of people have. And it's, if you get into the trades, you go start your own company 5, 6, 7, 8, or even sooner down the years down the road, and don't let people saying that you have to have a college degree or you have to go and do this in order to start your own company. You don't. Just go and do it. Try and learn. And I don't like the word fail. You get to learn from it. You're right. It's never a failure unless you just completely give up. As long as you keep on learning and growing, that's awesome. But enough of my soapbox, man. What you think of it?
I mean, that's a perfect way of really the perception and the stigma that we're trying to address with just construction, but you can take it into wide as life as in general. I mean, if you take the time and you're willing to put in the work, I said it on the podcast, but I'll say it again here, is that if you're willing to do that in construction industry,
Right.
the possibilities are absolutely endless. And the point that I love that you mentioned, it does pertain to construction industry, but you can just take it as a life matter is if you tell yourself that you're not going to do it, you're right. And I remember that my parents really telling me that growing up was Davis, if you just keep trying, keep going after it,
Mm-hmm.
keep saying that you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, like the little engine that could chug it, chug it, chug it. It's like if you just keep trying and you keep going after it, you're going to do it. But you have to tune out the external noise, and you're going to get me excited because that's the leadership talk in us. But to talk about Jason and to talk about what he's doing, his role
Incredible.
in the state of Alabama and just for our construction industry is absolutely unbelievable. The guy is just supremely humble of what he
Mm-hmm.
actually does, but he goes and he talks about the skilled trades in Alabama in the construction industry, and he tries to fill these roles not just to get guys as a warm body, to actually
Right.
train people to, oh wow, I can be in this trade, and wow, just because I didn't graduate high school or just because I have a GED doesn't mean that I can't make a life where I can provide for my family and have a very fulfilling career. Whether, like you said, you could be a 5 year tradesman, 6 year trade, or hey, man, after I learned a little bit, man, I really can go start a company. And that's the last
Yeah.
point I'm going to say, Walker, is we've both read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you
Incredible book.
guys haven't read the book, I would recommend anybody it doesn't really matter if you want to learn about real estate or not. The principles he teaches is that his rich dad was actually the guy that never graduated from high school and
Mm-hmm.
ended up investing in all these real estate properties and was able to overcome more things. But his dad, that was the quote unquote poor dad, was the guy
Who
that
is his
went and
actual
got
real dad?
right. Went and got a PhD, which we're not downplaying PhDs, but it's just like really the parallels of the rich dad that's not even his dad went and he tuned out the external noise and just bought it
Mm-hmm.
and had immense focus on what he wanted to do. He knew what he wanted to do and he's going to keep trying. It didn't matter if, like you said, don't want to use the word fail, but he just learned, kept learning, and that's life.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's exactly it. I love it. And Jason's such a good dude. I'm really excited for everyone to hear this. Seriously, it's like, again, just getting us excited. Construction's such an awesome industry. It really is, and there are so many incredible incredible opportunities out there for anyone who wants to go and try it. So instead of the stigmatism of construction, oh, I had to go and do that and work hard. No, change it. Change your entire mindset to like, man, the amount of opportunities that I have in this industry are beyond what I could possibly imagine. You could just go out there and do it. Go build, Alabama. Right? That's exactly what they say.
That's right, Mike. I don't know if you or Mike Rowe says it better, but you said it good right there.
Definitely micro. Oh, but man, we're excited for you guys to listen. So without further ado, Jason Phelps. Jason, welcome to the show, man. We're really excited to have you here. For those of you who don't know, it's a real treat. Jason is a very large part of Go Build Alabama, and I know he's going to start talking about that a lot during this podcast. And so we're just really excited to have you here, excited to learn from you and to hear more about your story and how you got into construction. So just to start off with, tell us who you are, what do you do, and how did you get into construction?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. Any opportunity I have to talk about the construction industry, I'm going to jump on it. But my name's Jason Phelps, and I'm the executive director of the Alabama Construction Recruitment Institute. And I always tell folks that that's a long, fancy name because it was named by the state legislature. So you got to have a long name so that you can break it down into an acronym. And ours is ACRI. So. But our board and our agency is charged with recruiting the next generation of tradespeople to the commercial and industrial construction industry. So, we do that primarily through the Go Build Alabama campaign. And hopefully, if you've been in the state of Alabama and you're listening to this podcast, you have seen some of our materials in some form or fashion, going all the way back to 2010 through 2014, when we were working with Mike Rowe as an on-air spokesperson, to any of the number of digital radio ads or, all kinds of forms of media that we put out there currently. So, but that's my position today. And, just kind of going, I guess, taking a step backwards and talking about how I got into the industry. One of the things that we do with Go Build outside of all the flashy media is we have a rubber meets the road program. We have actual outreach coordinators that go into the schools. They talk to students. They let them know about these career opportunities that are out there. And one of the things I make sure all of them mention to students that we're talking to, or even adults that might be career changers, is that regardless of your education, there is opportunity for you in commercial construction. So it doesn't matter if you have a college degree, a high school degree, or you dropped out of school and got a GED. There are opportunities that are there. And granted, based on your education level, you might have different starting places in the industry, but you definitely will have opportunity if you're there. Whenever you get into it, you'll have those opportunities. And a lot of it's going to be determinant on how hard you're willing to work, what you're bringing to the table, what you're willing to learn, taking advantage of opportunities that present themselves. And, my experience, personal experience with the construction industry, it really is, kind of follows that whole gambit. Just to give a little bit of my personal story, I dropped out of high school. So I didn't get a high school diploma. I did all of those things that high school dropouts do, fast food, grocery stores, those types of jobs that are available to you at that time. And then I was able to get on with a construction firm in the Birmingham area, and not a big GC, but, a kind of I would say a small, scratching the surface maybe of trying to be a medium-sized general contractor. So we did a lot of work at like UAB, a lot of school projects, those sorts of things. And I got on, and, my official title was probably laborer at that time. So, sometimes I felt like it was should have been called wheelbarrow pusher or
That's
shovel
right.
operator.
That's
And
right.
you know how that goes, but
Nail picker upper.
that's right. And I got caught with all of the, typical, games that are played with the new guy, go to the truck and get the board stretcher and, all that good stuff. But that was my first opportunity in the industry. And the one thing, obviously, as a student, I didn't care for high school very much. Obviously, I dropped out, and I thought, oh gosh, I'm going to do it my way. And unfortunately, I didn't have Frank Sinatra's talent. So, but once I got there, I knew that the idea of building things, even though it's hard and it's you're outside, there's a a really being satisfied with your work when you complete a project. And I'm sure you all have experienced this to some degree, but when you complete a gymnasium for a school, and you drive back by that 2 months later and you say, hey, I built that, you get to put that stamp on it, like you did everything there, even though you just poured the footings maybe, but you put that stamp on there as I built that, or I was part of that project. And so that stuck with me. And I knew it's something I wanted to be a part of. And even as a laborer, the one thing I noticed right away is, hey, you better have a tool belt if you want to actually do something besides operate the shovel and the wheelbarrow. Wow. So, that was my first thing. After a couple of paychecks, I bought myself a little nail apron, a hammer, and of course I get this giant framing hammer that you think you'd have to have Popeye forearms to swing. So I get that and I have it, and I carried it with me every day to work. And eventually, somebody said, okay, I'm gonna match you up with one of the carpenters and let you go build forms today. And so I got to do that, and then from there, I got to the company participated in an apprenticeship program, and they put me in an apprenticeship program. And I went through a couple years of that, and just started. I didn't get to like a foreman level. Obviously I was wielding this giant hammer, so I didn't get to do any kind of finish work. But I kind of topped out in my field career, I guess, on the form side as a form carpenter, and working at that point of it. And I enjoyed it, and the one thing I learned from the apprenticeship program, it's not that I hate school. It's that, what a lot of students I think face out there, and that is you're learning all of these academics kind of outside of real world application. Right. So for me, being able to, learn how to estimate concrete for a job. And I'll be honest, once I got to the point to where I was in the apprenticeship school, I had a really great superintendent that we were working with, and some great carpenters that would, let me do some of that work. We'd go into the job site and it's, hey, we're going to pour these stairs next week, go ahead and figure it up and tell me how much concrete we should have. And then when I'd get it wrong, they would tell me how I got it wrong, because, that's what happens, a lot of time. And just having those experiences were great. And for me at that point, I was working, young guy, making pretty good money. But then it started to click for me. It's like, hey, I really kind of like learning all this new stuff and being able to apply it. And then I got this wild hair. It's like, maybe I should go back to school and learn how to teach other kids how to do this, like I'm figuring it out. So, at that point, I went actually back to school while I was working, and then eventually finished up at Auburn with a degree in education. So I kind of went construction. Then I went back to school and got a degree in education because I wanted to, tell all these high school students that were like me how great education was. So then I taught school for a handful of years, and it's a lot harder to tell these kids that education's great. You know how it is. But right. So I did that. I taught high school for a number of years. And then I came back to construction again, kind of utilizing both of my areas with my construction experience and my education background, working with an apprenticeship program. And sort of from that point forward, I've always kind of stayed in the education and workforce development side of the construction industry, whether it's, working with an apprenticeship program there, moving over to a trade association and managing their whole education department, workforce development program, and then coming over to ACRI, which was a huge, kind of undertaking that's, still pretty amazing when you think about how it was created and the fact that it's industry funded, to working with that program as the assistant director, and then moving up to the executive director here these last 8 years. So, but that's a long story to say, hey, I started off with this place, and I didn't have that guidance in school to say, there's this great opportunity here. Instead, I made all the fall down on your face mistakes.
That's right.
And really just came upon that job as a happenstance, and but took what opportunities were given to me there and kind of ran with them. Just getting the job was an opportunity. Having the opportunity to go to apprenticeship school was huge, because that opened up doors for advancement. And I always tell folks, don't pass it by. If anytime your employer is willing to offer you any type of training, you jump on it, because it might not open up an opportunity today, but maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, that will come back to you and pay some dividends. And if not, you still get a great experience from it. So, but yeah, so that's kind of my background. I know, like I said, it's a long and windy road, but it's been very, I guess, enriching to follow that path. It's really, I enjoy, one of the things I love to do most are go to apprenticeship graduations, because if I tell just a piece of that story, there's at least 4 guys in the room that are following or currently on a similar path. And they'll probably all be way better craftsmen than me, and have these full careers in the field. But I got a good dose of experience, and then I kind of ran with it in this other direction, but kind of on board with the industry.
Jason, I love your story, and I appreciate you being willing to unpack that. I think it's awesome to hear people's story, because you get to hear from them of their experience and how they grew and how you learn from it. And so we could go a lot of different ways there. You hit on a lot of different things I like, but one of the points I wanted to mention was the general contractor I work for now. The big thing about them was there's some guys that are at regional superintendent executive levels that started out as a laborer that didn't get a college degree. And you're exactly right. It doesn't matter what education level. If you're willing to go put the work in and find that general contractor that's willing to train you, and you're willing to learn, you're able to advance. And I don't know of many other careers that are like, or any other industries that are like that. The construction industry just has this massive amount of potential for people that are willing to stick with it and are willing to pursue that.
Yeah, a lot of contractors, more so than degree, what they tell me they're looking for nowadays are, they even go, it's work ethic is what they're looking for. But a lot of times they want to phrase it almost like a sweat ethic, right? You're working hard to help this business make money. You're putting in that initiative. You're making yourself valuable to the company. And, if you do that enough, that tends to advance you in that company. And you're right. I mean, you can look at numerous companies in here in Alabama, and there are, executives and CEOs, and at some point even partners in these companies that started off, at the bare bones bottom and worked their way through an apprenticeship program. There's, even back when our community colleges did a little bit better job of skills training than what they do now. You see a lot of guys that just have a 2-year associate's degree, got out of community college and opened up their business, took that leap of faith to go into work for themselves. And, that's the great thing about it. I say, regardless of education, there's a door there for you. But hey, if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, there's some other avenue of opportunities that can open up for you as well. And, you'll see a lot of folks, particularly on the subcontractor side, that, they work for somebody for 10 years. They gather that experience and, the experience not only in the field, but how to run a business. And then they go into business for themselves. And that's a great career path for people to follow, so. but that, that is, I'm right there with you. There's a lot of those folks out there, and a lot more. We're seeing industry changers like that, particularly with the growth in the construction industry, with women coming into the construction industry. I think more and more you're seeing, especially young ladies, where I never thought this could be an opportunity for me, because it's always been considered a male dominated profession. But
Right.
when you get down to the, what the jobs are, there's nothing that, a woman can't do, or anyone else in this field, that a guy can do better. So, and that's,
I mean,
that's,
no, sorry, go on.
well, that's one of those, that's always one of those misconceptions that we talk about with the Go Bill program. It's
Right.
just laying that out there. If you're a guy and, you have a passion to be a nurse, go for it. And, if you're a lady and you're looking at construction and you want to build stuff and leave your mark on the skyline, go for it, because those opportunities are there.
That's all right.
No, I completely agree, and I think you touched on something really cool that not a lot of people, going into trades really realize. And part of one of the biggest parts of our podcast, and we've talked about this before on other shows, is that we want the young men and women coming up to realize that there are a whole lot other options that they can do than just go to college and become a doctor or a lawyer or engineer. And all those are fantastic. Those are great professions. We need them. But there's so many people that are just like, I don't want to go to college. I really don't want to take on the debt, or I don't want to have to spend 4 more years in school. But they don't think there's other options because, right, a lot of the times the stigma in the construction industry is, oh, dirty construction workers, or, oh, you have to, if you fail, you have to go work construction, and I saw something on LinkedIn today about that. And that was a quote from someone, and the guy posting it was like, well, that's completely, wrong. I mean, the amount of jobs and opportunities in the construction industry are incredible. And you talking about the entrepreneurial aspect of it. I mean, a lot of people thinking about going into trades might not even think that's an option, because sometimes they've been told that, you have to go work for someone in X amount of years and you just get retirement and go. But, I love you kind of trying to change the stigma of that and saying you can go work in the trades for 5 to 10 years and then go do your own thing and go from there, and then bring other people to come up. But going off of that, let's kind of dive into what exactly ACRI and Go Build Alabama, for one, we kind of know what their mission is, but go into that a little bit. And what are the resources that you have, and how do you kind of get those out there into the world so other people can see them and start changing their mindset?
Sure. So, big picture, we want to increase the number of folks coming into the industry. And, we do this, we have a full scale marketing campaign. So that right out of the gate, that's our biggest, tool in our tool belt is, we do media, and it from year to year, it changes. There will be, digital ads, TV ads, radio ads, all those good things. But at the heart of that campaign is our website. So, you have this overall tool, but the website is really that piece that's a constant place for folks to go back to and gather that information. And, going to that website, they can find, information about the industry. They can find all of the information about the various, careers that are attached to the industry. And then they can start to locate education programs that are in the state of Alabama. So, it's kind of those 3 big portions that they can go ahead and knock out there. So a lot of our activities drive back to that website. So in addition to that, I already mentioned we have an outreach program. That we have 2 individuals that will go around the state. They do a lot of work in the secondary system, all the way from 6th grade through 12th grade, and speaking to students. And it's, a lot of career fairs, career days, and then we do actual classroom presentations. So we try to get out to about 100 different events over the course of a school year. And then really in the spring, we transition a little bit from the standpoint of career fairs are good, but we want to talk to those high school seniors, because, based on our experience, if you talk to high school seniors that are getting ready to graduate, you can go into a room and say, okay, how many of you are going to college? And every one of them are going to raise their hands. Well, the data shows that every one of them is not going to go to college. A lot of them are, probably 70% are going to actually move on. But right out of the gate, 30% of them are not going to go. And out of that 70% that go, a lot of them aren't going to finish their first year of college. Yeah. So we really try to focus on those presentations. And it's not to go in there and say, don't go to college. It's to go in there and say, let us tell you about this industry sector. And here's all the things that are out there. Here's what an apprenticeship program is. Here's a community college path. So that whatever choice they make, whatever door or pathway they want to go down, they've got information there. And, our hope is that, if they're planning to go to Alabama and be whatever, and that doesn't work out for them at the end of the first year, that we've armed them with enough information that they can say, hey, look, I can go back to this website and find all these resources. And I remember that guy telling me apprenticeship is good because it has a job and the training paid for. So, maybe I want to try that. And we do have other resources, obviously those outreach coordinators, that's kind of their big focus. But we do a lot of individual follow-up as well. So with COVID coming, we've done a lot more lead generation targeted advertising because obviously we're not going out to these big events. What we did is we built out a system to where, if they respond to a specific ad, one of our outreach coordinators can touch base with them directly and find out what their circumstance is and help guide them to, options or other resources that are out there to help them start their construction career path. And we always, we can always guide them to the career centers and job placement sources, but we want to make sure that they understand what education opportunities are out there, because that does provide sort of that jump start to get into some of these jobs. If you have some type of piece of paper that says, I'm certified in this, or I got my OSHA 10-hour card, or I got this, it gives you something to put on that application to help you get the foot in the door. So, and then long-term, our thinking is, bringing, laborers and helpers into the industry is not hard. It's filling those journey people spots, those folks that have 3 or 4 years of experience and some education with them. So the more folks we can get in that mindset of starting off on a career path like that, we want to encourage them and then guide them to those resources that are there as well. So, that in a general, that's the core of the Go Build resources. We've also started working with the Alabama Construction Industry Craft Training Board to help manage their grant program. And this is a new, relatively new program in the sense that it's been around for 3 or 4 years. But they provide grants to training entities and employers that will, they can use to do in-house training, to do kind of enter the industry type training. So, and it's all funded by the industry, governed by the industry. So it's kind of supplemental to that network of training that's already available there. So we've taken on, more of a program management role with that, just helping, bring more businesses in there, letting them know what the resource is, giving them technical assistance to fill out those applications so that, they can better train their individual workforce, or work with some apprenticeship programs that they may be working with to get grants as well. So as far as resources go, I really think Alabama is positioned for the contractors here to have resources that probably no one else in the, no other state in the country has, in the sense that, we have a full scale labor neutral, all in recruitment program. And then we have this other fund that's set up to help provide craft training. And again, a contractor that wants to just, train their workers can apply for a grant and have it solely 100% fund a training program, possibly. So that's huge when you talk about, if you are that new business out there and you need to skill up your workforce, hey, you have this opportunity to apply for one of these grants and get your guys moving along that path so that, you're increasing the quality of your work, as you're building your company. So
Really cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, Jason. To speak for really the website, I got on that this week, and I've seen how phenomenal it is. I looked at it before last year, but I've gotten to go on it, and personally speaking, and Jason didn't tell me to say this. I went in, and you get to go see what the jobs that are skilled craft required that you can have in Alabama and in construction. And then it tells you what they do, what do they perform. I mean, the resources for this website are amazing. And I mean, just from what I saw, I think it's phenomenal resources to get on there and start looking around if you're even curious about getting into construction. But kind of moving forward, you kind of piqued my interest on two of those points you just spoke about. One being, what's the turnout like whenever y'all go speak at these high schools? And then two, I can't remember the name of the exact organization, but I know of the organization that's in downtown Birmingham that they take kids from high schools in the local area and they bring them in, I think when they're a junior, and they're able to work on math and learn the skill. If you could kind of talk about those two things, I think that'd be awesome.
Sure. Give me that first one again, and then I'll touch on the second one was the Academy of Craft Training. So I can get you on that one. What was that first point?
Just the first one was the turnout. What is it like when y'all go to these schools?
Sure. So a great thing about talking to high school students is you have a captive audience. So pretty much you're going to get a set number of students when you go in there. The fun thing that we get is a lot of times, outreach coordinator will go there to talk to a classroom, and the principal walks by and hears what our message is, and it's like, oh my gosh, we need to have all of the juniors hear this. And we have had them call a junior assembly or senior assembly. And so one of our requirements with our outreach coordinators, one, to be flexible, and two, you got to be willing to stand up on a stage and talk to a lot of people at one time. So we get a pretty good audience. We talk to a good number of students every year. Now here's the other side of talking to high school students, though. I don't think y'all are far removed from it, but sometimes you go to these presentations and it's like, I got a football game coming up tonight, and you're thinking about everything else but what's going on there. And but we know that going in. We try to use our media resources and videos and that thing to keep our presentations upbeat and current. But we also know that it's not gonna be, everybody's rock star dream at that moment. But the one thing that we always think about is, how many touch points can we put out there to help people find our information? So if that presentation's one, if we catch them with an ad piece, a digital ad piece down the road, and then a TV ad, we're just trying to make sure that if they're ever inspired to take advantage of this opportunity, that, they know where to go. And, we've done some back end, surveys and focus groups, through a third party vendor, and we've had pretty good penetration that rate. With individuals over 22 years old, we've got about a 60% or more that know what Go Build is and what it's there for. So we know that that message is there. And listen, this industry is not going to be for everybody. So in some ways we're creating a broad funnel and then seeing who's going to take advantage of that opportunity. But and then programs like the Academy of Craft Training in downtown Birmingham, that's a really unique program. In essence, what that program is a high school career tech center that's geared towards construction occupations. So, and what makes it unique is it went into it with a partnership with a trade association. So right out of the gate, it has a pool of contractors that are tapped into it. And they have been the guiding force when it comes to who the instructors are and, kind of what they're focusing on in that curriculum. So, they've been able to say, hey, we need to really focus on construction math here, and we need to have this hands-on, practice here. And then at the same time, by having that contractor base tied to those programs, I think it's given them more opportunities to provide some real world experience for those students to go out there and shadow or summer intern or any of those types of things with that program. But I'll say, even on top of that, around the state, we have about 50 high school career tech centers, and they all don't have that same contractor buy-in, but a lot of them are putting out high quality students that can really come into our industry. And that's one of the things that we talk to contractors about is, when you're ready to hire your craft people, particularly your entry level folks, where are you going to, where are you finding them? Or is it word of mouth? Or are you just asking people on the job site? We really need to take advantage of, if in Madison, you've got a career tech center and your business is up there, you need to be attached to it. And listen, coming out of a high school program, that you're going to have 10, 15% of those top students are going to be ready to go to work and be probably highly successful. And you're probably going to have the bottom 20% that will never come to our industry, that took the class for whatever reason, because they got put in it. That happens a lot in high school. I picked this class, but somehow I got stuck over here. But and those folks that fall in the middle ground are really, the ones that we need to talk to, and would be great to have more contractor involvement with these schools, because they've got some of those experiences we're looking for. You hear all the time, just send me a warm body that can use a measuring tape and I can do everything else. Well, those kids have got that, and the trickier side of, obviously, if you hire somebody straight out of high school, you're going to be mentoring through those things that you get with somebody that's getting their first job. It's getting them to learn to put down their phone, and I think that's probably a problem across the board with workers in the field anymore.
That's right.
But,
that's right.
For sure.
But show up on time and communication and all that good stuff. And the schools focus on this a lot, but at the end of the day, sometimes it, just like I was hard-headed and had to learn, some things on my own. I think sometimes you got to get that first job and you got to have somebody fire you so that you'll make a better employee for the next person. But they do cover that. And I do think there's a lot of opportunities, particularly in North Alabama. Some of the career tech centers up there really excel with instructing their students. But there's some really good ones around the state. Over in Tuscaloosa, they have a welding program at the high school there. And the instructor is a journeyman that used to work with Maccabee Construction for like 20 years. So you've got a guy in there that knows industrial welding inside and out, teaching high school kids right out of the gate. So, I mean, the quality that those kids are getting and the experience they're getting is tremendous. It might even be better than I will deny this, blank out my face when you put it online, but it may be better than some of the community college programs. So, I mean, just because you have that person with, such a vast industry experience there. So,
Jason, you kind of read my mind earlier when you started talking about the contractor side of thing, but kind of just go into a little bit on, what has the contractors' response been to y'all reaching out to them and telling them about this program? And, how easy is it to get them to kind of buy into it and be like, hey, man, because I know I've worked for GCs who have been looking for work or looking for tradesmen, and they've just been posting it on, Indeed or something like that. And I don't know if that's because they chose not to, or they just didn't know about, this incredible opportunity that Go Build offers and everything. So how do y'all go about contacting them, and, what is the overall response?
So we generally get good response. I think the problem is, we're still using a model, and again, this is my opinion. So, and I don't build jobs or anything like that. I just dance around this workforce development side, but we tend to use a labor model in most cases where we want on-demand per project labor, right? So it's like we staff up and then we staff down immediately when the project's done. And I think what we're seeing in, at least the last decade, and I think it's really ramping up now, is you have employees that want more longevity and guaranteed going into these projects.
Yeah.
So, I do think, and we do run into that a lot, where it's like they just use those old methods for recruiting, and it's easy, so it's easy to post that posting and see what comes in, and then complain about what your results are from that service. Working with a college program, or working with a high school program, and putting in that time and getting to know them, it takes some time and effort over the course of the year. So you're working on your staffing plan 12 months out of the year, rather than just on a project by project or a specific need basis. And I think that in and of itself is one of those things that, the companies that are willing to make that change are probably not having as hard a
Yeah.
time, with their staffing issues, as opposed to the ones that are, really in that on-demand type practice. But generally it's receptive. A lot of times, it gets lost though, and most contractors tend to fall in the small business category. So, a lot of times, the owner is the general superintendent, and he's the HR person, and he's this person, and he's this person. And
Right.
it's, while he wants to do it this way, he just wears so many hats, or she just wears so many hats, that it's hard to make that commitment. So you fall back into those easier systems, or, it's like, I put my ads out there, I couldn't find anybody, so I called the temp service. And, I filled those spots that way, even though it's not the quality of worker, I would, inspire to have all the time for my company. So,
Right.
but
It's
I do
like
think,
sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, it's like anything though, anything that's good in life, or anything that's worth anything, it takes time. It takes time to,
Yep.
okay, at the end of this job, we don't really know where you're going to go yet, but we're going to find something for this guy, because he's proven that he wants to learn, or lady, and we want to see them grow, and we want to, like you said, it's like mentoring, whatever high school, or even if there's someone in their 20s, it's mentoring these people and trying to train them and educate these people in that field that they like. And that to me has been something that's been frustrating for me. Jason, I almost didn't graduate college. I transferred, from civil engineering to business school to liberal arts to finally building science. And so I didn't know if I was ever going to get through. And I remember in Auburn, as I worked for construction companies, even though I'm working as a residential side, these guys were mentoring me and wanting to help me get through it. And so speaking to my life really helped me. And hey, that's how I got into construction. But if we can, if y'all are willing, I would like to shift kind of into the older and younger generation. Like, we're not going to put stigmas on it, but I would like to talk about maybe some of the typical clashes that they have, or some of the common occurrences. Because for me, speaking again as an intern, I remember seeing how the older people that were getting close to retirement were about to phase out, and so they were taught a way, and then now I'm the younger guy and I want to do it this way, or I'm taught a different way. And so there's this natural clash of old guy and young guy. So I just wanted to ask you a question. What is it like? What's some good qualities a young person should have with that older person, and how do they add value to them?
So, I think a young person coming into the industry, it is tough, because you're always going to have, the older person is always going to have that mentality of, hey, you got to pay your dues, right? I
Right.
mean, we've all been there and gone through that process. And sometimes, if you're in that process of paying your dues, unfortunately, you decide, well, the dues aren't worth it. I'm out of here. I'm going to go find something else to do. And, we probably lose some folks that could be outstanding craftspeople in the industry because of that. And, I think that's one of those challenges, like the on-demand labor, that I think individual businesses have to address in their company. It's like, more and more, our workforce challenges, obviously we have to recruit and we have to get them trained. But one of the biggest challenges we face is that, each generation is a little bit different in how they view work, and not to say, what you hear nowadays are these kids don't want to do anything, right? They don't want to work and everything's
Right.
bad, but that's not really the case. They're just looking at work differently. They're
Yeah.
they're choosing, in some cases, it's not always about the money. It's about, I want to feel fulfilled in that I'm providing something to this company, right? I want to know my place in there. I want to see how my efforts are coming there. And I think, to the point you're making, that would be, if I was an owner, that would be one of those things that I would really sink into my superintendents, my field foreman, and then any kind of person that was in a supervisory level. It's not about, their job should be to help bring these folks along as quickly as possible and help them understand, how to be in the company, not just how to, pay their dues and, show up day in and day out, so that, it's not about building a thick skin. It's about building, our projects and getting them, on time, high quality, under budget, all of those good things. And I think, that's one of those changes. The mentality of young people, they really, it's not that we don't have folks that are coming into construction to get rid of one of those misconceptions to be that dirty, hardworking, rough and tough guy anymore. We've got,
Right.
women and all these folks that are coming into it because they're seeing it as almost a high tech, a real career with advancement opportunities. So when you create that, I guess, juxtaposition there with that foreman, it causes some problems. But I really think, if those foremen would open up, to what these young people are doing, they're bringing technology skills to the table now that those older folks in the company have no clue with. And I mean, I look at some of the really neat things they're doing with drones on these job sites, and I'm willing to bet you could take a young employee at any of them. If you wanted to start a drone program, I would pick 4 of those guys
Oh, yeah.
and get them to do it, because they're going to
Mhm.
pick up on that so much quicker, just because of the technology they grew up with, that your superintendents didn't. Now, you still got to teach them what they got to do and how they got to do it, but just having that inherent, technology base, I think is going to be huge in
Right.
helping these companies move forward. And I really think, we don't really have to worry about, to a large degree, I don't think we have to worry about automation in our workforce, but technology and bringing new technologies into the industry, I think, is really going to help. And I think that's where young people can create niches and be a real asset for their company moving forward.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jason. That was one of the things that we talked about before. But if we can just kind of park here, because
Sure.
technology I've seen with some of the younger people I've been around, it's what attracted them to even think that they could even start in construction. And one of those being just, we're in this whole new world of bin modeling and VDC, but that sparked their interest and they thought they wanted to do that. And then once they learned about the field side, or maybe it's a PM, or maybe a different out being in estimating, they got into those roles. And so I think it's a crucial point of using technology and getting people involved. But what has it been like? Is there something that y'all talk about as Go Build Alabama, or reaching out to these schools? How does that work out for Go Build?
On the technology side, we like to introduce it to them. Obviously you have to have a mastery of the basics, so we always say learn that skill, master a trade.
Right.
But we do like to show it, and we're always looking for new ways to highlight it. I looked at a company. They have a product where they're using a Oculus headset, and they built out some curriculum there. And I look at it in 2 sides. One, that's going to be on the Go Build side. That's going to be really cool to have on the table there, and the kids can put it on, and you're in the virtual environment and see it. On the training side, though, I'm not sure that's that technology is far enough along. I mean, they had them turning a screwdriver, and I'm like, you just do that in real life, and you get a real more better experience for it, right? So so we're always looking at ways to bring that to the table and show them. One of the things that that kids really geek out for at a career fair is if you drop a set of plans for a big project and this huge roll of plans and it's on there and you just let them flip through it and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize all this goes into it. And, I as a worker, I would be doing everything on these papers. That's neat. Laser levels are huge. Measuring tapes, we'll do with middle school kids. We always try to, on a career day, we'll attach it to, something related to math. And it's like, hey, you learn the Pythagorean theorem, right? You know how contractors or, particularly carpenters use this every day. And we'll, stand them up and get them with the measuring tape and let them see if the corner of that classroom is actually square or not, right? And so we do stuff like that with them. And then, anytime we can bring laser levels in, those are always eye-catching with the students. This year we're building in to use, and it's not really new technology, but if you've ever seen the Google Cardboard, which is, it's kind of like a low budget Oculus setup that you put a phone in. And then if have images that are 360 degrees or videos that are built out in that panoramic format, it gives them that kind of view. So we're looking at using some of that, and then putting some good imagery from commercial websites, so they can get that kind of immersed feeling of what it's like to be standing on a tall project or something like that. So we do try to use a lot of those experiences.
That's incredible. We had one guest on our show, I believe it was podcast number 12, Johan, and he was talking about drone technology and drones that would tie rebar. They could come down and tie it. So his whole goal with it was not to replace the workforce, but to simply improve it, because he knows these guys are bending over hours upon hours a day. And so he was thinking, if I could just relieve some of their having to bend over all day long, then they can last longer. They can love their job a little bit more, and the workforce will grow because of that. And it's crazy. It's crazy technology that we have nowadays.
Yeah, and prefabrication is going to be one of those technologies. Everything that you can figure out how to prefab before you get it out to a job site, that is certainly one of those areas that's going to be that way as well. You mentioned the BIM modeling, and that's something we talk about with the craftsmen. A lot of times you see it on the, you hear it on the architect side and the owner side, and why it's important to them. But I really think that technology is just getting to where it's cycling down to those subs in the field where, they're not working off the two-dimensional prints all the time anymore. They're going straight from the BIM. So, if it doesn't fit when they get up there, then something is really wrong and somebody put their stuff in the wrong place because, on the 3D model it worked, but
they're not happy about it too. I'm on a job right now, Jason, that they're plumbers, but they're mechanical side. So they do the hydronic piping for all the VAVs. And if that pipe, if its bottom elevation isn't there and someone else is right there in the way, they're throwing a fit.
Oh yeah. Well, I did back when I was working for a trade association, we had EMP courses just to have all of their supervisors come in. And it was a training course, but it also was it was a course designed, it's like, here's some best practices and how you can work together on a job site. And at the same time, it was, it's like, let's all get in a room and fuss at each other here so we don't, torture each other out on the job site every day. So that's a big one.
That's awesome. And so we want to be responsible with your time. I know you're a busy man. So I have two more, then one more question. We'll end up with our follow one that we ask all of our guests. But the first question is, if you could talk to young high school students, even young college or people who are college age who might not have gone to college, what is the one thing that you would tell them about the trades and that might change their perspective?
But, we tell folks across the board, do something that you want to do and you're passionate about. And, obviously, a career path can go all kinds of different directions. So, even if it's not the most passionate thing that you're entering into, go into it full force, commit to it, work hard. No matter what you're doing, if you work hard and show initiative, again, I go back to you're going to open up opportunities for yourself. So, if you're the laborer, you want to open up that opportunity that's going to get you to do something that you want to do on that site. You want to learn how to operate a piece of equipment. You want to work with your tools, whatever it is. So that's, we emphasize on that a lot with individuals that are looking at this, and it really applies to any occupation that they might be going into. Work hard, show initiative.
I love it.
Typically with high school students, we also tell them, hey, look, we need you to focus on math. And, when we talk to those high school seniors, it's guys, you have spent 4 years now not doing any basic math. Everything has to be some kind of, equation or measuring lines or a graph, but you need to do fourth grade, converting fractions to decimals to fraction, adding and subtracting mixed fractions. So if you can do those 3 things, you'll be able to use a measuring tape. You'll be able to be accurate on a trade job out there. And I tell you, a lot of these apprenticeship programs, they'll have a basic math test, and the scores are terrible for a lot of adults and students coming out of there because we don't practice that type of math. It's basic. And if they just get a quick refresher, they do well with it. But then we also talk to them about communication skills. And that's one contractors will say all the time, we just want them to take the trade classes. But then, you want somebody with some problem solving skills. You want somebody that is competent enough to communicate to you that, hey, I'm not going to be at work on Tuesday because of this reason, instead of just not showing up. And so we try to mention all of those things to them. And, just you want to be the best you that you can be, show those qualities, and you're going to get some opportunities in this industry.
That's so good. That's fantastic advice for anyone listening, not just younger generation. I mean, anyone can gain so much wisdom from that. So, for our last question, this is something we love to ask people because we get so many incredible different answers. But if knowing what you know now, you've been through a lot. You've gone through a lot. Part of your stories on the show, and it's awesome. What advice would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self if you knew then what you know now?
I would have joined the military right out of high school and did my 20 years so that I could retire at 40.
There you go. I love it.
For me, definitely, I would have graduated high school because there's no reason except I was, stubborn and hard headed. Right. And that in and of itself, I look back and I said, this cost me 5 years of real earning potential because of that. Right. So, but you have to own, you also have to own your choices, and, you have to move on, and, one choice you make today isn't going to define the rest of your career. And, so you continue to move on. But I would go back to that, don't burn bridges, and make opportunities for yourself. And I truly believe, I know I've hit on it a bunch of times, but I think you make opportunities for yourself by being the best employee you can be. And that's whether you're flipping burgers or, you're a rod buster, getting ready to, put up a column or something like that. So, I really think that's going to open up those opportunities, whether it's just catching the eye of somebody that says, hey, you're a great worker. Why don't you come to work for me? Come to work for me. Awesome. I hate to have somebody, job hop like that, but that's how it happens a lot of times is, you continue to network. And, for somebody that's not my 20-year-old self that's out there now working and doing these things, networking is huge. You need to meet and be willing to talk to as many people as you can, because the way our industry, and we're not unique in this, is that we don't, we put those ads out there in these different places, but a lot of times people get hired based on word of mouth, or, they are given a personal reference to go and talk to somebody about employment before a job posting is ever made. So the bigger your network is, that's going to open up some opportunities for you as well.
Right. Nick Saban, I know we're in Alabama, so I can talk about this, but Nick Saban often says in his talks, if you're going to be a street sweeper, go be the best street sweeper there ever was. And just have that pride to go out and do the best that you can do that day, no matter the circumstance. and your impact in construction, when you look back at it, will be, you won't even be able to think about all the stuff that you've done, the relationships you've made, how great this industry is. And Mr. Jason, we appreciate you just being willing to speak with us today.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Anytime. Thanks for having
Thank
me
you
on
so
the
much.
show.